Amazing. All right. So if I get started, and I think some more people will probably jump in once we get rolling here. But hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Work of Design live webinar presented by Studio Designer and Mydoma. If you're new here, Studio Designer is the leading platform for interior design businesses, helping designers manage projects, finances, procurement, and client relationships all in one place. And our Work of Design Live webinar series brings you the expert insights, practical strategies, and real world conversations to help you build a stronger, more profitable design business. As I said, my name is Lena Stevens. I'm part of the Studio Designer Mydoma team. And today I'm excited to welcome Christine Woodward, founder and CEO of 19th & Co. With more than 20 years of experience in the design industry, Christine helps design firms build stronger businesses through leadership, management, and growth strategy. Combining a background in architecture with executive coaching, she works with firms to align their business goals with practical systems that support long-term success. Today's session is Pipeline by Design, how to attract more of the clients you actually want. And it's about building a stronger, more intentional pipeline. Christine will share practical strategies to help you attract the right clients, strengthen your visibility, and create a business development approach that feels authentic and sustainable to your unique business. As always, we want an engaged session here. And so you can either throw your questions in the chat. We're going to be answering them as we go here. And, or if you want to ask a question live, you can raise your hand and I will unmute you and you can ask your question directly in chat with Christine. So we have two ways of engaging today. We want you to be a part of this conversation as it goes. So and if you do have to step away, don't worry, this session is being recorded, so we will share it with everybody who registered afterwards. And you'll see that in the email after the session is done. So we're so excited to have Christine with us today. So Christine, jump on in. I'm going to hand this all over to you.
Hey everyone,
Hello.
How you doing? Hi, so glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Helena.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited. It's and people keep jumping in too. So
I
I
see
think
that.
we're going to have a pretty good engaged conversation here. And I
Yeah,
think you've got a nice mix too. You've got some first, second, 19 years in business. So
I
a good
saw
mix.
that. Love, love, love. Well, we can go ahead
Yeah.
and get started. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just get set up here. Give me just a second.
And 30 years in business. We should do that thing that's at weddings where you're like, stay standing if.
Who's the longest? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And I
I
do
just,
want to reiterate what
okay.
Helena had said. Please engage. I don't like just being the only one talking. I love this to be a conversation. So raise your hand. You can do it by chat, but I love chatting with everyone. So please, please, please. I'm going to go ahead and get this going. You're going to see the ugliness before it gets set up here. Slideshow. There we go. All right. Let me get my chat right next to it so that I can see what you guys are saying. But like I said, please raise your hand if you'd like to just shout out. There is no interruptions. I don't even believe in interruptions. I want to hear it all, but we're going to talk pipeline by design. This has been a topic that has been increasing in popularity in working with our clients. And basically since Q4 of 2023, really the increase has been seeing an uptick. And we're going to talk about attracting more clients, but it's not just more for the sake of more, but ideal ones. But it's not even limited to that. But you'll see. We'll get into that. So, without further ado, hold on. I'm going to introduce myself as Helena had already done so, but a little bit more information. I'm the founder and CEO of 19th & Co., which is a coaching company that's international. And I got my start as an architect and then as an interior designer. So with over 20 years within the design industry, I was at the large companies like Gensler and working at Restoration Hardware at the corporate office, as well as small firms, right? And got my start in hospitality, worked my way into workplace, the VC firms in the Bay Area, and then a lot of their homes. And that's how I broke into residential. The really high-end residential with a master's in architecture, studies in management at Harvard, and an MBA from Johns Hopkins. So I've always had this passion for business and design. And That is why I am doing what I do. I really, really love it and finally found my groove. Just like you guys started your business, I saw a lot of people were starting their businesses for the first time 1 year, 2 years in, 30 years, Mary, because we love what we do, right? But we need more work to be able to sustain that. So that's where we're going to start. So we're starting here, pipeline problem though. Let's understand why everyone always has a pipeline problem. Everyone will always have that. And really what I was just talking to a client and thinking about this webinar, and there's the cyclicality of everyone's pipeline. The idea is kind of to make those peaks and valleys not so extreme and kind of flatten them out a little bit. You won't ever have a straight line of, or straight uptick, and no one has that, right? I don't care what industry you're in. The idea is just to smooth it out ever so slightly and not have such huge dips. And when you do have a dip, not have it be so detrimental to your business. But let's understand why that's happening. I know you can say, oh, it's the economy. We're not going to blame just the economy here. So there's the feast and famine cycle that we all experience, some less than others. And again, it's that peaks and valleys. And if we smooth it out, it won't feel like a famine. It'll just feel like a bit of a dip, right? The feast and famine is, let's just understand it, right? It's that you're too busy executing work to look for new work. That's, at the end of the day, you think you're too busy. And if you keep believing that, you're going to just perpetuate that cycle, unfortunately. So you put your head down, you deliver for clients, and you hope the next project will be around the corner, or maybe you just don't even think about it. And around that corner is the famine. The project ends, you look up and the pipeline is empty, panic sets in, leading to reactive marketing and taking on misaligned projects. That's why we're going to talk about aligned projects, right? Again, please feel free to raise your hand along the way. In that, in your defense, yes, there's the feast and famine, and that we are contributing to as business owners, but there's also the economy, of course. So it takes two to tango, sort of thing, right? But the economy has also gotten tighter because of higher saturation within our industry. So there's more competition. There's also fewer unsolicited referrals. I think there's just tighter networks that aren't just Googling interior designer, right? Well, now they're AI searching, but there's slower conversions, and there's clients that are more discerning, AKA they just have more tools at their fingertips, and we're not such a high limited commodity. We have been commoditized as an industry, as interior designers, right? So those are the challenges, but we also are perpetuating on our end of things with the feast, through the feast and famine cycle. What I call the default trap is that owners, you got started to start a business because you love design, not to do business development. I've literally had clients say that, and I get that, right? Unfortunately, it devolves into operational friction because of that. So, right, you fall in love, I gotta move some settings here. You fall into the path of least resistance, putting out unimportant fires because they need your attention. And you kind of just take on a reactionary role in your business, right? And by doing so, we're avoiding business development and maintaining that, what I'm calling the toxic cycle, which leads to the feast and famine. Also, I'll also be truncating business development since it's such a long term. We'll just say BD from here on out. That's the trap, and why we're all experiencing it, and some more extreme than others. And my job here today is to help you smooth that out a bit. So it's not that you have a pipeline problem, it's that you have a systems problem, right? That is why everyone has the feast and famine and being extreme in that feast and famine. So let's unpack that. First, we need a little bit of a mindset reshift and reframing, and that is that you need to see BD as a very important client. First of all, as a client in your business, but a really important one as well, right? Because you would never ignore a client's email or skip a scheduled site visit. I mean, that would just be unheard of. You wouldn't forget to order materials or do the work, right, for a project just because you're too busy. And that is essentially what we're doing with business development, which is why we need to see it like a client in our business. So it's time to treat it like a client, which means dedicating time blocked on your calendar. It requires deliverables and deadlines, right? And non-negotiable work that drives that forward. A pipeline by design, let's define that. It means a pipeline that doesn't happen by default. And I know I used that term earlier, which is the default trap. It happens by design, and it means it's a direct result of doing these three things ruthlessly. And that is creating a system, creating a resonant message, and the habit consistently. We will talk about that a little bit more in a bit, but we're going to get to first our ideal client. This is funny, a topic that a lot of people talk about, a lot of people in my position talk about, and I feel like they drill this one so hard, like this is where the magic is. Figure out your ideal client and everything kind of falls into place. And this is the furthest thing from the truth in terms of where the kind of the effort should stop, or where the biggest um, importance is. This is very important, but it's as equally important as the systems and the habit that you build around your business development, right? Again, treating BD like a client. So, but first we have to understand the ideal client. The ideal, not knowing your ideal client would be like going into a design project, not knowing your client's aesthetic and expecting to finish the project. It's next to impossible, correct? So you need to figure out what's the aesthetic of your ideal client, right? I don't actually mean the aesthetic of it. Sure, some of it you want to know that if you never want to do traditional work, okay, yeah, then we know obviously the aesthetic. But what I mean is you need to know who is your person, right? Who are you wanting to get more of? So the wrong client drains your energy, demands out of scope work, right? You still might get a little bit of that with your ideal client, and dilute your portfolio, right? In fact, actually, I just realized I forgot to put in here something that we work with our clients on, and that is the 3 Fs, and it's fun, fame, and fortune. And it made me think of this because fortune is money. Obviously, fun is that you enjoy the person that you're working with and you enjoy their project. And fame is really just directly related to portfolio. That's what just made me think of that, and that I forgot to put that in here. So it needs to contribute to at least 2 of those, right? That makes it one of those ideals. So that helps to build some structure about identifying your ideal client. The aligned client respects your process, values your expertise, and leads to more aligned referrals. And the reason why it's so important to align yourself with your ideal clients, obviously because you want to work on that project, but because it means it perpetuates more and more and more of that, right? Because if you don't refine who you want, then you're just going to you're going to take projects who just show up at your door. Say, all right, I need it, right? And don't get me wrong. This is another thing that chaps my hide when people talk about ideal clients. It isn't coupled with the information that's like, yeah, you're going to have to say no or say yes, to the cash flow projects. What I coin the cash flow projects. Cash flow projects, as it sounds, are the projects we have to take anyways because we need some money in the door, right? Hopefully, it's where you've got a team where you can be kind of handing those off to them while you could continue to do or service your business development client. So you can keep that snowball growing while they're doing that. If not, you're taking on those cash flow projects in it. You just kind of have to juggle more. But it's really important to remember and know that I'm well aware of that. And you do have to keep taking those. And what happens is, and actually I'll go back, what happens, your ideal client is the ultimate goal. But just like playing a sport, if you say, I want to be an Olympian as it pertains to volleyball, right? Or let's talk a single swimming, right? I want to be the fastest. You don't start out the fastest, which means you don't get your ideal client out the gate. You've got to practice and get more. I intentionally mean and say practice your ideal client. You have to practice your ideal client. You're figuring out who that is. You're figuring out how to work with them. You're figuring out that process. And eventually you will get to them. But in the meantime, you're taking those smaller projects. We're going to take a couple seconds and I'm going to let you jot these things down. Please, please, please jot these things down right now, because otherwise you're wasting your time coming to webinars like this if you don't start to do the work and map it to your reality. Webinars, courses, programs, they fall short. They have great content, but they fall short because you don't map it to your reality before you go back to your reality. You listen to this information, good information, but then you go back to your reality and you think you don't have time for it. That's because you don't take the time to immediately map the content you're taking to your reality, and then you hire someone like myself, my team, or another company to be your accountability partner to actually keep that mapped reality and content to your reality going. So I'm going to ask of you we're going to take 30 seconds. Who is your best client historically? I know some of you are first client, so you've got to just make up one. Theorize, their last name's Smith and they do this and the project was like this, just have an ideal. It's a little harder. It may be your very more ideal, but name someone there, okay? What made them great? Just jot a couple things down real quick. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then what are the red flags I ignored on my worst project? Note that for yourself as well. Going forward, I will say no to. That's a little harder one. It's okay if you leave that one blank, but please get the one noted who is men, trust, respect. Yes. Appreciate that, Mary. That's a good thing you can write down. Yes. And the red flags. So maybe it was that you were kind of getting a sensation that the male in the project wasn't respecting you. And so write that down for number 3. I'm going to give you 15 seconds more. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Finish these out, write something, please, because otherwise what you're doing right now is not business development. You're just, I know I'm a little harsh, but I'll say you're wasting your time if you don't take this information and go map it to your reality, and do something with it. And those in first years of business, you're getting this information early, taking in a lot of webinars and this and that. It's spinning wheels in a lot of ways. Unless you take that information and you say, I'm going to at least take 25% of that information and go map it to my reality and actually implement it. Otherwise, you're just wasting time and you think you're being productive. So we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's why I put things like this in every webinar I do or talk I give. All right. Now we're going to dive into, hopefully you got those. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Feel free to interrupt. If I've already moved on, I want you to get it mapped to some level of reality of yours. The three pillars of our system of business development is the system, the message, this consistency, or the habit, like I talked about earlier, but I'm going to dissect them a little bit more. So the system is a clear, repeatable way to approach business development and identify the right sources. It's why there's $1 billion business called CRMs, right? Customer relationship management systems. Yes, that's part of it, but the system really is who's answering the first call when someone's coming in, who's doing in-home consults, right? That's the whole system. Messaging, it's what are we saying when we do get finally in front of people? How do I reach out to people I don't know? Well, let me tell you, it's not sounding like, hey, here's our portfolio, here's our website, would love to connect. No, because that sounds like you do need the work, which you do. We have to sound mutually beneficial. We'll get into that in a second when we dive into messaging. But that's the funny thing. We don't want to sound like that, right? That. It's like dating. I'll use that analogy. I say it with clients all the time. Business development is like dating. You don't say on the first date or the first email to the person you're trying to court, right? Kind of like, hey, would love to get married. How many kids? What's this looking like for you? That's what that first email looks like when we get, link our website and attach our portfolio and this and that. It's like too much out the gate, right? The fifth conversation we're having with them might be breaking the seal a little bit on that. Anyway, we'll talk about that. But consistency is the next one. It's obviously the habit of it, right? The operational rhythm and making certain you stick with it. Again, going back to that, treating it like a client, an ongoing client. It'll be the longest standing client you've ever had, right? So the system, let's dive into that. It's moving away from reactive to proactive. I want to be very clear too. When I say business development, I don't mean the reactive business development. So the leads you're getting, keep that going. But what I'm talking about is layering on the extra hours it takes to do proactive business development, which I don't even like using that term. And every client will hear me say this time and time again. I call it IRB, intentional relationship building. And that makes it not feel so business development and networky, because that's gross. No one wants to do that. We're just building relationships, right? But we do have to create a system to do that because we're juggling so many other things. It will inevitably slip through the cracks if we don't have a system, which is why we're talking systems right now. So, I jumped ahead. Business development is not just getting more leads. It is intentional relationship building, like I just said. It's intentional relationship building that leads to more of the right introductions for right opportunities, right? It's not lead gen. It's not all those marketing talks. Because the more we say those things, the more we feel gross about it, and then we don't want to do it, right? So it's really important. That's why I talk about mindset, because if we don't treat this like a client, and a client we like, aka not a networking client, but a relationship we're building, we won't show up every day and keep that time and respect that time that we blocked out on our calendars for business development or relationship building. So your network determines your opportunities. This is really important. A lot of people aren't ruthless. You'll hear me say ruthless a lot, and I mean it to be jarring, because what oftentimes so many people, myself included, I can slip into this, is you get stuck, right? You get comfortable, and most firms rely on familiar circles that they're rolling in. But those circles tend to reinforce your current level. That's why you still are where you are maybe after 5 years or 20 years. Or why the firms who have been open for 30 years have seen an uptick in the type of projects they've done, which would be great, right? Laura says, hi, I always explain the relationship to the clients. That it is like dating. I haven't heard anyone else use that analogy. Yes. I love that you use that. And it is like that. That is why we don't jump right in. So thank you, Laura. Love that you reinforced that for me too. So if you want different opportunities, you need different inputs. What I mean by that are the next level up or the next concentric circle out. That is the circle you want to be a part of, right? So we're going to take some inventory right now. Again, I like to be interactive. I want you mapping this to your reality right now and not just listening to me. Do the work, or otherwise don't waste your time being on this call with me. I really want you to feel like momentum has happened after we get off this call. Trust me, it will once you start writing these things down. Pipeline reality check. Write down the project name, just a quickie like Smith or however you call it, right? Project type. is it a powder room? Is it furnishings only? Whatever it might be. And is it aligned? I want you to be ruthless and answer for yourself. Is it aligned? Even though you don't know what aligned is, just from a gut level, right? Yes or no, if it's aligned. And then who it came from, the source that it came from, right? Right. Maybe it was direct, maybe it was random. That's fine. But we're going to kind of uncover some patterns there as well. So take 15 seconds, 30 seconds, get some of these jotted down. Even at most, get 3 jotted down, please. And I'll give you a little bit more time there. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Right, there you go. Please make sure you answer it aligned. As hard as it might be, answer that one. And the source, just kind of guess, even though it might have been, well, it was from so-and-so who's so-and-so. Write down one of those names. We want to start uncovering some patterns on the sources as well and the alignment. Give you 5 more seconds just to at least fill in 3. You're just hopefully writing this down on some sheet. All right, we're going to move on. Now, what your pipeline is telling, right? So back to this sheet, those last 2 columns, is it aligned? Were the last 5 projects aligned? You might be saying no, and that's okay. That's why we're at this talk, right? And what source it came in, that's what we're going to start unpacking more too. What you just mapped is your reality, right? It is exactly what your current system is producing. And this is why you might be where you are. But is it what you want? It's probably not, which is why you're at this call. You're not alone in that. Even those who aren't at this call are feeling that as well. So you're not alone. Friendly reminder that your input equals your output, right? Your pipeline is not random. It's not at all. It is a direct output of your inputs. Your inputs can be your website, right? So inputs are source, visibility, and messaging. It's your website. It's your social media. I'm not saying you pour a ton of effort into that. Unless you become an influencer, those sources don't give a lot, but they do help to round out what you're conveying, right? But when you go out there and you do this intentional relationship building, like the dating, as Laura mentioned, and what I like to use the analogy of, they're going to go check you out on your website and your social media and sanity check. Is that the kind of person I just met? Did it feel the same? Is it cohesive? And do they do the kind of work, right? Because they can't really see that when they're meeting with you. So those are the inputs, right? The output then is your pipeline. Let me give you an example. I can't tell you how many digital audits we do. And clients are wondering why they keep getting design firm owners are wondering why they keep getting homeowner clients that are small potato, right? One sofa projects, that's what I always call them. Why are they one sofa projects? Why is it just a powder room? Why is it a small scope? And then I go onto their website and their social media and I say, oh, well, interesting. You keep showing just powder rooms, small apartment kitchens, right? They're going to think that's what you do. They're going to think that's where you roll. And if you had someone who had a full estate that they were looking for, an interior designer, and loved your aesthetic, but all you showed were little apartment kitchens and a tiny powder room here and little vignettes, right? It feels small. They're not going to feel like that you're their people, that you can do an estate. So I know your next question is, well, how do I do that if I don't have a portfolio? That's another conversation. And there are ways around that without being unethical. But if you do have the portfolio and you're keeping everything on there, that's where I see the most of it. You need to edit everything else out. That's too small scale. Because again, your inputs equal your output. And that is why you are in the pipeline that you're in, right? So, change the inputs, change the outputs. That's what I was basically just saying on that one. Auditing your sources, that's what I was just getting at. Are you aligned or are they aligned, right? Is your website showing that? Is your social media showing what you're wanting to grow into? But from an aesthetic standpoint, from a scale standpoint, those are kind of the 2 biggest ones. And are they active? When was the last time that you sent an opportunity your way? Sorry, this is now talking about the other sources. This far column over here. Who sent you the source, right? So, are they aligned in that the source, when they keep sending you, it's like, yeah, they keep sending me, but they keep sending me powder rooms. Well, we don't want to spend much time with them anymore, whoever that referral was, right? Or the client who keeps referring you, but they keep referring you ADUs because you did their ADU. That's great and all, but we definitely just want to make certain we're being ruthless with our time and we're not spending more time with them. And we make certain we spend more time trying to get into the circles we want to get into, right? And then are they active? When is the last time that they sent you an opportunity? If you keep reaching out to and trying to work with and you're working with architects and GCs, but they've not sent you a referral, it's high time you find some new architects and GCs that you work with, or let them know like, hey, I've got to broaden my who I work with, and I'm just to make certain I can support all the clients, but I'm also looking for those that are kind of a mutually beneficial relationship, right? They'll get what you mean. That's how brutal and I'll say ruthless you need to be with your sources. So what makes a source aligned? And I kind of was starting to already get into this, but it has three distinct areas, and that is proximity, understanding, and value, or action rather. Proximity is, again, are they in the same rooms and circles that of the people you're wanting to be in, right? That's how you determine the architects you want to go after. If you're already in touch with architects that have all the same kind of clients you do, or same circles, or the same kind of projects, we don't want to spend time trying to cultivate that relationship anymore. We want to go to the next architect that's a next tier up, right? Understanding. They have a deep understanding of your scope and caliber. They understand the value you bring to the table, right? And that's what you're sussing out when you reach out to new people. Action. They are positioned to make that warm and direct introduction. That's that proximity. So that's who you're looking for in sources. And the funny thing is, this is why I talk about this as a system. I can guarantee half the people on this call and half the people in the industry do not look at their relationships that they have through that lens. And it can feel a little inauthentic, but we do it with friends. We do it, especially when you're a parent. Whew, you're doing it with your friends, right? You don't want your kids hanging out with maybe who you hung out with in college anymore. And that's not a good influence for your kids. You're putting a ruthless lens of assessment on your personal life. We need to be doing that in our business. And the lens we need to be answering for ourselves, or the questions are they giving us referrals? Are they feeding the pipeline and the business I want to be growing into? So now I'm going to have you list 5 people, hopefully top of mind, that come to mind, that you want to connect with. Or already have a connection to. Obviously, they're going to be invest more time. You're going to want to say yes, right? You want to map those who you could send work to, and that could send work to you. But next tier up, I just want to get the juices flowing, and so start mapping that. Here's one of the emotions that could go through you when you write this down. You might want to be like, God, I would have loved to work with that builder or that GC or that architect, but no, they're too far kind of beyond where I'm at right now. I don't care. I think you should actually push yourself and put it as one of the, kind of like the skinny jeans in your closet. You need to keep it top of mind so you know your end goal, right? But not to a point of it shaming you. So I want you to know it's one of those, all right, that's 3 phases, right? Every business is sequenced. Know that that's like 3 phases ahead. But the rest of these maybe are listed as the next phase, and it's a lot more natural next leap. And I just hid my chat, so I want to make sure while you guys are writing that. Okay. So take 15 seconds. Let's get this written out. Again, this is who would you ideally like to be sending work to or be getting work from? Or I know I wrote who you get work from right now. You can continue that conversation too. I think you're assessing, there's 2 categories. You're assessing who are you currently getting work from? Are they serving your business in the way that they should be? Not that it's their responsibility, it's that you are spending time with them. And so do we really want them a part of our business? And then add some, I might even have a second sheet, add some that are the ones you want to get aligned with because you know that they'll be the next level up. So get a couple of those names written down, hopefully 5. Jot down just their first name and something to remind yourself who Johnny is, if it's Johnny the architect. And if you have done a project with, were they aligned? So you're analyzing your current network sources and who you also want to invest more time in. All right. So remember, I'm going to repeat this, that the source you're diagnosing, you're assessing. Misaligned sources are those that send you clients who haggle on price, right? So just because you can be like, oh, I work with this architect and he always sends me, have you ruthlessly assessed, like, they keep being clients that are not a good fit, which means he's either messaging you incorrectly and your value, or frankly, he just works with the same kind of clients that are doing the same thing to him, which means we don't want to spend any more time and we need to go out and find and align ourselves with a different architect who we're hoping will not only bring us projects and we can give him projects, but that align with the kind of clients we want to align ourselves with, and conversely with those that align, which we've already talked about. Future sources. I knew I had a sheet in here about that. Now you're jotting those down. You know what? I don't care if you already did it on the next one or the one before it. Let's do some more. This is where it continues. Now, if you did do it on the last sheet, I want you to do on this sheet the ones where you're like, no, I couldn't connect with them, or they'll think I'm, I don't know, too small or not good enough, whatever is going through your mind, because we can all be our worst sabotagers. Write down 3 more then, if you already wrote some other ones on the last one. Definitely fill this one in. We're not stopping until everyone does. Again, future sources. Who are the ones that, and if you did write ones on the last sheet, make this be the, you know, the third circle, fourth circle out, the ones that are like, no, I couldn't ever, I won't ever be in business with them. Write them down on here. Shoot for the stars, land on the moon, right? Oh, thanks, Helena. Yeah, sorry, putting everyone to work, but if you're sitting here just listening, I can guarantee you're probably then emailing, eating, texting, which means half the content's being consumed, which means you might as well not even be on this call and focus solely on what you're doing, right? And this is where I coach on ruthless intentionality in what you're doing. We focus on one goal, one or two. Sometimes we do have to juggle between two, and we move the needle on that. Jane, you always stop by myself from reaching out to establishing architects as think they must already have relationships. Good, Jane. I like you bringing this up. And real estate agents have a few I know. So if they look at that factor, why would they choose me? And again, they are establishing relationships too. That's right. So I think if I'm understanding Jane, and I heard it time and time again, kind of like, the architects, they already have the people they work with, the realtors, same thing. Do you know that they like working with them? They might just be in a place of comfort because it's like, we know how to work and we know where their shortcomings are and they're right. But what about you introducing yourself to them? Think about the relationships you have right now, whether you introduced yourself or they did, the architect, let's go with that relationship. And you work with them regularly, let's say, or a builder, right? If it was you that reached out to them and now you guys are working together and you love working together, you basically say to him, you're welcome. Aren't you glad I reached out, right? You could be saying that to the future architects that you're going to reach out to and be like, I knew you already had designers. Of course you do. Look at the work you do. It's gorgeous, right? But it's not just about the design. It's why clients hire. You can have the exact aesthetic, the exact back of house operations, and a client's hiring you for you, right? That's a huge differentiator. It is also aesthetic is usually the bigger differentiator. But other than that, that's who they're hiring. Well, same with the architects and same with realtors. It's who you drive with, right? There's tons of me out there, coaches, right? But are they as honest, kind of ruthless as I am? Probably not. And that's what a lot of our clients love, right? So they're hiring you. So Jane, I hope that kind of demystifies and puts aside that little voice in your head that says, they probably already have someone. I don't care if they have someone. Who's to say they're good, right? They could be sick of working with them. They'd love to work with someone fresh and bring that to the table for their clients. So glad you brought that up, Jane. Appreciate that. What gets scheduled is what gets done. So the firms with the most consistent pipelines don't have more time, right? So I hear this time and time again, I don't have time. Or I have potential clients get on a call, I'm like, I know what I need to do for business development, I just don't do it. And they either say, because I don't have time, or whatever excuse they bring to the table. And I say excuse because we all do it. Time is not one of them. You have to carve it out. That's why I say reframe it and make it a client. But it's also that the client or the firms that are more successful does not mean they have more time. It's because they forced that time, right? And they were smarter with it. They are not just posting on Instagram and expecting leads. Unless you are an influencer level, that is probably the only time you really get leads. And even then, are they really that great, right? Let me just answer some chats. Hi, Emily. I signed on late. Did I miss a PDF with these sheets? Nope. I think they'll be sent later. Caroline, a realtor recently told me they are always looking for designers to refer because so many designers in the past have flaked on them. Thank you, Caroline. That's exactly my point. You couldn't say it better, Caroline. I could keep riffing on that, but I'm going to leave it at that. You do not know the predicament that every one of these other disciplines is in, even if they do have relationships, but also not to mention, you don't even know if they do have a real deep one. They could just be having one, meaning, oh God, I got a project. I just picked the first designer that just recently reached out to me, but they weren't good, right? So that was great. Love that. Thank you, Caroline. Let me just pick up where I was. So it's because they have a better system. The ones who are doing better with a greater pipeline and a larger business because they're doing more business, it's because of a system. That's it. It's because they have someone dedicated to it. But you don't have to be dedicated. We work on that, right? But BD on the calendar is BD that actually happens. I'm a time blocking fanatic. If you don't know the term time blocking and the concept of it, it sounds obviously intuitive what it is. You need to go look it up. I'm a fanatic of it, and it's huge. But even if you don't time block, there's still systems, right? So let's get into the message. I need to check my time here. We started at the half hour. Ooh, got to keep moving. Okay. If it sounds like everyone else, you are competing on price. And that is very true. And that's like what I was saying earlier. They're hiring you, right? You as a differentiator. We'll get into more of this, but I'm going to say real quickly, because there's messaging as it pertains to like once you get into the door and you're kind of pitching your services, you talking about well, I'll just I do this all the time. I'm just going to follow the slides because I'm going to get into it anyways. Messaging is where everything falls apart for business development. It is the system, but even the business development you are doing, it is like I was talking about earlier. You accidentally send that email that is the, portfolio attached. Here's our website, that kind of thing. So even if you're connecting to the right people, messaging is where it breaks down. You might be saying the things that sound unclear, desperate, generic, like I was saying earlier. Let me see, Stephanie. When is the right time to hire another employee? Always shy away. Okay, because of feast and famine. Great question. Would love to answer that, but it is a little off topic for where we're at right now. I'm going to stay on topic, and Stephanie, happy to chat with you afterwards. And anyone else who has that question, which tons of people do. The two groups of outreach, right? And this is what I was going to get into. There's clients and there's referral. So there's two buckets, clients and referral partners. BD requires managing these two groups. Clients, obvious, they're your active clients, they're inactive clients, they're potential clients, but that's a group of people. Referral partners are the architects, the GCs, depending on your discipline, right? They're realtors, they're people who already have the clients you want. This requires that peer-to-peer engine. Targeting by temperature is what I call this one. You've probably heard it. It's marketing speak. I don't even like to consider myself a marketing expert, even though we coach on business development, because it's more like I'm a relationship expert is what I would say. But terms that they use in marketing is hot, warm, and cold. And I do think it kind of organizes things well. So we're going to target by temperature here. Hot sources are those that you have referred you in the past 12 months or active current partners, right? So even clients, that's in the hot. Past 12 months, they stay top of, so the goal is to stay top of mind and show gratitude, right? Kind of just checking in. Hey, how you doing? Warm are people you've met, interacted with, and socially, mutually, right? Maybe in the last 6 months, and you're moving away from acquaintance to active conversation. I'm going to go back to what Laura and I have both used in the past, the analogy of dating. Kind of be thinking about that because that's a really natural way of people to think and use that analogy. That's the value add email, which we'll talk about. Cold sources are those, which you can imagine, firms you admire but have zero connection. Those were the ones we were talking about earlier, where I said push the envelope about writing down those architects or GCs that, no, not me, I couldn't work with them. Put them down, right? These are those cold. Establish authority and request a brief introduction. That's the one I'm going to go over because I think that's where you can make the other ones are easier for everyone else because it's low hanging fruit. You kind of already know them. This is where most people need the greatest lift. And this is the one I'm going to really dive into a little bit more. So let me, I call it the anatomy of that authority outreach. This is for the cold. This is again, the opposite of what I was saying earlier that a lot of people do, right? A lot of people do here's my portfolio. Here's a link to our website. Would love to work with you. Hi, bye. That kind of thing, kind of empty, no call to action, right? What you want is a low friction hook. So you want to establish an immediate rapport by referencing a specific project or just, you love the work that they do and that you share in that same lane, right? You want to make yourself appear like, looks like we do a similar caliber of work and similar, kind of play in the same sandbox. This proves that obviously it's not a mass email and that validates you as a peer, not I'm desperate and would love to work with you because you look like you do a lot of great work and really big work, bigger than I do. So do you have any work for me to level me up, right? That's the opposite. Of course, that's the opposite of what you want to send, but inadvertently messaging ends up being like that. The authority anchor is to reinforce mutual value with subtle cues to your firm's momentum. Kind of, we have a growing pipeline. So we want to just make sure our, expanded team, I like using the expanded team or external team, is ready for when our clients are needing the right architect or the right GC, right? Signaling competence and parity. The call to value, remove the pressure of transactional ask. Oh, don't do that. Again, it's like dating. This is the first date. You're not going to ask on a first date. Frame the next step as a low stakes conversation to explore alignment. Kind of like, hey, let's hop on a call and see if we're a good fit, right? Like if how I work works well for you and vice versa. Eventually, maybe the fifth date's kind of breaking the seal and saying like, great, we've gotten to know each other. Like, how can we really start working together and actually see if this is really a good fit, right? How can we dry run or dress rehearsal this, small project? That's usually how we like to work and say something like that. Jane, thanks for architect info with regard to real estate agents as one designer, decorator, but 5 or more real estate agents I know, would it not land to distrust because I can't refer all of them, or should I refer them all because just as I have certain qualities some people like, they would too? Sorry, Jane, not too sure what you're saying there. Let me come back to that and just keep on this thread because maybe it'll answer your question. Otherwise, you can maybe put that into ChatGPT and just a little bit clearer if you wouldn't mind. Okay, timing and follow-up messaging. So when you're sending out correspondence, whether it's to your hot, your warm, or your cold, there is an ideal time. And it's not Friday at 5 o'clock. As you can imagine, I'm being extreme and obvious here. It's not Monday at 8 a.m. because Mondays are being used for getting into the week, right? Meeting with the teams. Fridays are used for phasing out and operations and then kind of wrapping up the week, right? So Tuesday through Thursday is the ideal time. Look it up. This is a lot of research backed. And usually between the hours of 8 and 10 before people are really getting the groove and fires start hitting, basically, right? You want to hit their inbox at the top so it's not tanked or drowning in other emails on top of it. The follow-up cadence is usually once a week when you're reaching out to the cold to try to get on their radar. When it's the hot, it's more like, hey, thought of you, just want to stay top of mind, right? So it varies based on the temperature. But other than that, when we're talking cold, it's once a week. You could do a week and a half, 2 weeks at most, because again, we're reaching out because we have a growing pipeline, which means we mean business. And so we're really looking for partners. We need to get to know you because when we've got a project for you, we want to be ready and have you in our back pocket. This is real. This is not faking. And so that cadence conveys that sense of urgency as well, right? Communicating value. Clients don't buy mood boards. So now we're talking about kind of some communication as it pertains to clients. And I'll use another example, but clients don't buy mood boards. And this is all obvious, CAD drawings or procurement hours, right? They buy the outcome those deliverables create. And I'll give you an example, an analogy, is like going on your website. I have a lot of clients when we do the digital audit, they want to do the before images or the process images, save that for social media. Your website should feel like an AD magazine. And I don't know the last time I picked up an AD or interior design magazine or HD and saw in progress images or before images. Like if I did, and I used to, before the advent of internet, I've been around for a while, I used to pour over those magazines. I knew every designer on every project, and I would start to notice patterns. This firm seems to get these kinds of projects and this caliber of projects. I mean, I scoured those magazines. They never showed before images and they never showed progress images. That's because they're selling aspiration, right? You should be selling that as well. That is why when you're pitching and communicating to clients, you're selling the benefits to the pain points that they're scared of and anticipating, or already know that they happen because this isn't their first rodeo. And so you're telling them, I solve for those, right? The millions of micro decisions that goes into one of these kinds of projects, that's me. That's on me, the designer, right? Not you. I'll bring you only the big ones because I'm basically your owner's rep, essentially, is how I'm acting. I don't know if you guys know the category of owner's reps. It's a growing category, even in residential. I say growing in residential. It really showed itself in B2B when I was in hospitality, but it's a growing space in the residential world. And now I lost my train of thought on that. Mom brain. Sorry about that. Anyways, owners reps, because they're your point of contact too. That's another lead group. These are in more of the large metropolitan areas. So when I said architects, GCs, realtors, add that one to your list, by the way, owners reps. So your message must bridge the gap between what you do and what they actually want. I'll give you another example. It would be like iPhone having an ad that says, we have a camera and we have an on-off button or volume button, right? I don't know. Obviously, they're not going out with that. They say, we have a camera, and they give you some specs, but they kind of say that quickly. And the majority of the visualizations and the messaging is to say, and with that really badass camera, we can capture these incredible moments in your life because you don't want to miss a moment, right? That's what your communication to clients, and frankly, even to all the other guys, but they care more about brass tacks, right? Your referral partners, how you work, the features. Your clients care about the results. You need to be messaging that, right? Like Apple does with the pictures that result from the amazing camera that they were able to fit into a small phone. So that's the communication to a client. Now we're going to move on to the consistency because I want to make sure we save time for any questions. Again, feel free to raise your hand. Keep asking questions in the chat. I really don't like just talking to myself here. So the consistency, how often you actually do it. Again, I'm going to go back to my strong dislike for webinars and programs and courses that don't have you mapping it to your reality live and don't have an element that has you access to someone who's like, I use the example of a personal trainer, right? It's the most fit I've ever been. You can sign up for a gym, makes you feel a false sense of hope, or you can do the real thing that's actually going to actually move the needle, and that's the personal trainer, right? Well, the personal trainer, why it works is because, well, you're spending money and you're not going to not show up. Well, that showing up is habit. That's the part we're working on here. And this is where, again, where I said treat this like a client. Clients who paid you some money forced you into a habit to do their project. That's all that is. You might like it. If you don't like the project, that's definitely just a habit. You are in the habit of translating paid client to doing the work. That's all we need to do with BD, right? That's their name, BD. Picture whoever you want to picture with that. That's who you're doing work for. So the consistency, and again, I'll use that term. It's a ruthless intention that only works if it's consistent, right? It really, I'm not kidding when I say you could learn all these things and start at one time. One big bang and one big influx of effort does nothing like small, tiny steps. And I know you've heard that over and over, how those snowball and create real momentum. So the operating rhythm, again, it's, Monday might be pipeline review and planning. Tuesday through Thursday is that targeting that outreach, and Friday is logging those activities and scheduling more follow-ups. Because we have the advent of obviously schedule, send. You can be doing everything Sunday night and just schedule send for Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., right? The point is that you need to get it carved out and identified. And I say identified because just like in design, we have 5 phases of design. And within that, it's very nuanced. You know what goes into concept and schematic and design development. If you didn't, you'd be kind of this aimless animal trying to execute on a huge project, right? Let me see, Ellen, we've shared mood boards on social media as part of a process post to share a behind the scenes look at our process. I love that. Yes. And the many decisions we handle. I love that. Or to show how finished selections transform into real life. Yes, yes, yes. The mood boards are always paired with a beautiful professional photo. I love that. On social media, absolutely. That's what I was saying. Progress can be shown on social media. Hands down. Keep that going. It's on your website that I was saying is like a magazine. Keep that. Yes, you're welcome. Keep that to final images only. And you can even say something like, want to see the process behind the scenes, right? You can have a behind the scenes link on your page and have kind of a coming soon page, right? Coming soon should be a part of your portfolio for sure, especially those designers that are 1 year, 2 years in right now, and then go direct them over to social media. I'm going to get back to, you're welcome, Erin or Ellen. So map this out. This is just one idea of like what this could look like, right? But it needs to be that formulated, just like you do with your design projects. 3 touch points a week. You can imagine that's 150 meaningful interactions per year. 150 if you did 3 new touch points a week. This is what I mean about small things adding up. But that means nothing if you don't keep the habit. That's what I mean. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, if I worked out, or I don't know, the analogy of workout, if I lifted 150 pounds 50 times, I would have some muscle. It's like, yeah. Or you could do 5-pound little dumbbells every week and not have it be so hard, which means you'll actually go back to it. And then you'll be really ripped because you'll go up to the 10-pound and the 15. Yes, I'm currently on the 5. That's what made me think of that. Your calendar determines your pipeline. I've said it again, and I'm going to say it 3 more times. The ruthless intention only works when it's consistent. Your calendar determines your pipeline. I also might have gone backwards, actually. Okay. What gets scheduled is what gets done. You cannot rely on motivation or free time. This is where everyone gets stuck because they're like, oh, that's where business development happens, right? You don't have free time. Remember, everyone always says how busy they are? Everyone always says that. And we fill the void because we're human beings. And without that, we're aimless feeling. And that's very uncomfortable. So you feel it. That's where ruthless intentionality comes in. Everyone uses the term intentionally. I don't, in the soft way that it means, like being present in this. No, I'm talking ruthlessly. I mean, you have one goal, and if it's to increase your pipeline, it means anything you're doing better apply to that. And don't lie to yourself. It's not social media. Again, unless you are, I don't know, thousands and thousands of, hundreds of thousands of followers, sure, yes, then you can be doing that, right? And you can absolutely become an influencer designer. put all your effort there. I'm not saying don't do that, but we have to have the aim, right? It'd be like trying to shoot a bow and arrow and not know where our target is. So ruthless intentionality. It's you can't just get really good at a sport with saying I'll do it in my free time, right? You can't become an Olympian with my free time or when motivation strikes me. No, that's not how any of that works out, right? That's why the personal trainer works. So, because you'll never have free time. Block 60 minutes on your calendar every week. Here's what I'm gonna have you guys do, and I don't have a little sheet that says this, but I'm gonna force you to do this right now. Go onto your calendars. Again, I'm a time blocking fanatic. Go onto your calendars, and what's today? What is today? Seriously, I'm losing. Thursday. Time block for tomorrow. It tends to be a big operational day for a lot of people. Do it in the morning when you're primed and we have most of our willpower. Remember, you have to be thinking about these physiological issues that we have to overcome too. In the morning, maybe not 8 o'clock because you haven't really woken up yet, but not 10 o'clock because then the ball's rolling on all your projects. Maybe 9 o'clock's the perfect time. Not a lot of people are in the office or you haven't gotten going, clients haven't emailed, but your willpower's intact. 9 o'clock, put 30 minutes. Don't even put 60 minutes, actually. Put 30 minutes and put it recurring for 9 o'clock every Friday and say, when you pull down, say, does it repeat? Say yes and say weekly, Friday, 9 a.m. Never stops. Put a stop date on that. Go ahead. Everyone do that, please. You can put it for another time. No, I'm not even going to let you have that decision that you have to make right now. This is what I do for clients because that's another decision, which means it won't happen. Put it tomorrow, Friday, 9 a.m., your time zone. 30-minute time block, make it repeat weekly with a never ending, no date. 15 more seconds to finish that. I don't even care if it conflicts with another meeting tomorrow. Please just do that. You can find another time if you want. But before I move on, you have to hit save. Okay, I'm going to assume everyone's done that. And here's why. I want it to be kind of like, what is that on my calendar? Oh, and what to label it. Sorry. BD client. My BD client time. Something like that. Okay. Oh, what are you doing during that time? Excellent question, Autumn. We'll get into that, but we don't have time for that right now. Are you presenting to a current client? No, you're going to generate new momentum that is not currently moving forward. That's what you're doing. So in a high level, I kind of answered you, Autumn, but I would like to dive in more. It is that cold outreach. It's rewarming those ones that you haven't spoken to in 12 months or 6 months, right? Which I think I got that in verse earlier. Sorry about that. The ones that are kind of cold that you old clients, architects that you used to work with on previous projects 2 years ago, reach out to them. That's what you're doing during this time. Okay. So high level. If it conflicts with anything, that 9 o'clock tomorrow, I want it to have some friction for you tomorrow when you're like, wait, what's this 9 o'clock? Oh, that's right. That's Christine with 19th and Co. She told me to put this on there. Well, it doesn't work at 9 o'clock. Good. Go find a new time. And that forces you to do that. Keep it on the recurring. And when you find it doesn't work again, okay, I want it to be a nag at a thorn in your side until you find the right combination and formula that does work for you. That's what I want that tomorrow at 9 o'clock to be for you. The excuse and moment, right? Now hold on. I clicked the wrong. Nope, I didn't. There we were. I don't know where we went. I said the power, Nope, that was it. I have no idea where that slide went, you guys. There it is. Okay, so the minimum effective time, we are here. What consistent business development actually looks like, right? One coffee. Actually, Autumn, here, kind of answering your question here. We're trying to get to that coffee or the call to get to a coffee, right? Eventually, it's a follow-up email. Even if they will ghost you, by the way. People will not get back to you. That is why you have to just keep following up. So know that now. One piece of visibility. Keep that minimal, please. Social media, that sort of thing. Pipeline review, right? You're doing that once a month to just sanity check. Am I staying on top of this? 4 actions done every week. That's a pipeline by design, right? I'm kind of giving you different ways to look at this to show you what it looks like to create a system and a habit around that. I'll give it to you in another way to resonate differently. The power of small, consistent actions. Research shows that, and it does, look this up. Research shows that small, consistent actions compound dramatically over time. You don't need a massive effort. You need a relentless rhythm. And this is what I was saying earlier. You can imagine we call it the 3-2-1, 3 BD touch points per week. This is where you can goal yourself, Autumn, to answer your question on that. Equals 150 per year. We talked about that earlier. 2 new aligned relationships per quarter. Imagine that's all it results in. Means that's 8 new relationships per year. That's 1 year of consistency. that transforms a pipeline. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. If you keep that up, and that's, by the way, that's kind of like, let's get started. And that's the starting point. Really, we're goaling ourselves and pushing our clients to do twice that. But I don't want to scare you. I probably shouldn't have said that because it probably scared you, but that's where we're going here. Tracking creates momentum. So what gets measured gets managed. Again, it is when you're seeing on your calendar that you put BD and you keep moving it and you keep moving it. I do this because, again, I'm a time blocking fanatic. And when I notice whatever I'm doing and it gets moved 3 times, it's like, okay, there's a number of reasons. I haven't realistically, there's a book called Getting Things Done, by the way. This is where I learned this from. It's by David Allen. It's handed out to the students at Harvard in freshman year. Some of the professors do. And the concept is that, we write on our calendar, do BD. There's 47 micro decisions prior to that you can even do it, which is why no one does it, right? It'd be like putting on January 1st when the new year comes and you say, start working out. What am I doing? Right? Am I running? What time of day am I doing? What outfit do I need? Am I swimming? All those decisions have to be made before that. So that is why when you put on your calendar, it needs to be micro decisions. And when it gets moved, be gracious with yourself and say, okay, I keep moving it probably because this isn't the next step. There's a tiny step before that. I'm overwhelmed for some reason because it's not been broken down, right? That's my job that I do for my clients. But I'm telling you, it's not because you're lazy. Clearly, you have a business, right? Or you're a driven person. You have to dissect it in those other ways. Are we on time? 2 minutes. All right. So who you reached out to, you're kind of analyzing. This is a way to analyze and diagnose why, how to keep momentum and measure it, right? Turns this invisible effort into visible progress. That's the other thing too. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, who owns a house and you put $50,000 into new AC units? Just did that. Boy, that sucks because I could have put $50,000 somewhere where everyone would have been like, wow, my gosh, you're clearly a former designer. I love it. Does nothing, right? Then it feels like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. And you won't have this kind of positive reinforcement to keep that going. When you see progress, it will be the thing that keeps propelling you forward. So you need to show yourself progress, right? That's why showing yourself those quick little wins and those tiny wins is really important. I'm going to give you the 30-day BD commitment. Again, because I can't just talk at you. This has to be action. Cecilia, what's the name of the book you just mentioned? It is Getting Things Done, GTD by David Allen. It really is the concept, the biggest takeaway. I put it into ChatGPT for the citation on that. But yeah, thank you, Helena. The concept is that when doing something, you need to make certain that you're aware of all the baby steps that go into it so that you don't get overwhelmed and then just don't do it, right? Again, they say in this to students, it's like saying do homework. There's 47 things that need to be figured out, like, well, what homework do I need to do? Which chapters, how many days do I have to do that? I'm actually finishing my MBA right now, so I'm still in that headspace as well. That's the important key to that. And why so many tasks fail is because they're just not broken down. That's it. It's as simple as that. We're clearly driven people, right? And we really want something. It's also not because of that. So you need to stop. By adopting this mindset and this practice helps to stop diminishing that you're not a person that doesn't get things done. It's that you just weren't approaching it right? We want to make certain we safeguard what we think about ourselves, even if we're conscious of it. 30-day BD commitment, everybody. Audit your top 5 sources. We kind of already did that. Look at that. I'm giving you positive reinforcement right now. To audit your top 5 sources, you might want to just do another round of it. If not, and this feels good enough, good. Good enough is where you should live so that momentum continues. Do not be a perfectionist. Don't be prideful of that. That's all I have to say. Don't be. That is something. Good enough is where you need to live to keep moving forward. Rewrite your elevator pitch. I don't really like saying it, elevator pitch, but right, it's back to what do we do that benefits people, not just, well, we have the 5 phases of design and please don't say this, we love transforming clients' ideas into their dreams. Every client or every designer says that. It needs to be the idea that I help you enjoy the process of design, so you keep getting to have the design you want to be surrounded by without the pain it takes to get there. No one's saying that, right? That really resonates with me now that I'll call myself a retired designer and we're constantly getting our house renovated. I know the pain, and that's why I actually hold off, because I don't want to go through it. But if someone told me that's one of the biggest things I manage and you'll have beautiful design, I'm going to work with them hands down. Block 60 minutes. We already put it down to 30 minutes. Get that time blocked in there. If you didn't get a chance to, please, please, please do that. One ruthless move this week. What is the one business development action you will take before end of day tomorrow, Friday? So in your 30 minutes tomorrow, whether it was at 9 o'clock or before the end of the day, not someday, not next week, tomorrow, commit to that. Write it down right now. Literally, like, I'm going to reach out to Sam, the GC, love him, but haven't been in contact with him for a couple of months. And so I'm just going to break the seal by doing that one little quick outreach. Write down a name, please. Okay, Q&A. What questions do you have for me? 2 minutes over. Oh, thanks, Sarah. Love the information given. Time blocking, BD aligns really well with shoot your shot Wednesday. I don't know that one. Any other ideas for jump starting pipeline, like going to events or other marketing? I'm actually glad you brought that up, Sarah. Going to events is a waste of your time if you don't goal yourself of what you're going to accomplish by the end of that event. By that, I mean, okay, I'm going to an event and I'm going to get 3 contacts, or at least to the point where I could reach out to them and be like, oh, I forgot to get your contact information. Would love to connect, right? Something like that, 3. Or you do get the contact information. You have to follow up. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Don't even have gone. Kind of like I talk about webinars, programs, things like that. If you're not going to be ruthless about your intentions, don't waste your time. Do all in person then. Nicole, amazing job. Thank you so much. I will hear be ruthless in my brain every Friday morning at 9 a.m. I love that. I love that, Nicole. In fact, title that 9 a.m. Be Ruthless. Your new client BD. Sierra, shoot your shot. It's cold outreach once a week on Wednesday mornings to people who are on your list, the ones that scare you a little bit. I like that. Shoot your shot. Really cool, Sarah. Thanks for that. I like that a lot. Good little quick way to say it. Jane, what did you just say about saying pain points rather than dreams into reality? What did I say? You're working with a perimenopause mom brain here.
I think it was about how you, like, everyone's saying we're creating your dream, space, but no one's saying like we're going to
thank you.
Take the pain away. Yeah.
Yes. So every interior designer, I say, okay, tell me what do you say when you're pitching to someone? I hate the word pitching, but when you're trying to convey what you do and the value you bring, right? And they say like, oh, well, pretty much at the end of it, it's kind of, I transform your dreams into a reality in your space. Like I'm, what you're thinking, homeowner, as what you'd like, I make that a reality, right? Some version of that, or your style becomes a reality, or it maps to your style and the function you need. Everyone's doing that. That is what design is. If you're not doing that, yikes, right? What I'm talking about, Jane, is it needs to be the benefits. Interior design, should be a wonderful experience. These might be families that are for the first time being able to afford an interior designer, and they get to brag to their friends that they're having an interior designer. Should it also be a nightmare? No. So you want to be saying to them, you get to have great design. That's by default. That's what hiring a designer, I hope you find a designer that, gives you that great design with functionality, but it also should be painless. Let's not promise that. But you should be the one helping to steward that. So all the pain that they would incur, they'll only feel a quarter of it, because you'll kind of jump in front of the bullet for them with a ton of the pain points that'll be flying their way, and you'll be their partner that will take on all those pain points for them and only bring the big ones that require them, right? And you have a team that you work with, architects and GCs, that won't bring you pain points, client, because I'll be the one that it'll filter through first. So those are kind of some of the pain points I was talking about, Jane.
Yeah. While you're reading, I'm just going to jump in. So I did launch a poll just in case to find out, you guys can answer, to let us know if you want to connect with Christine. She can reach out after this webinar. Also, just if you want to learn more about Studio or Mydoma, and just any other topics and any feedback at all. So we love hearing from you guys. So I just wanted to, it came up on your screens without me prompting. So you guys
thank you for that. Good. Yeah, that'll be good insights for us.
Yes,
Laura, thank you. It says this has been one of the best studio designer webinars. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. I know I'm
so great.
a different speed here. Jenna, is email the way to begin to reach out? It depends on who we're talking about, right? So if it's cold outreach, yeah, probably that's one of the best ways. If it's one of the warm or the hot, meaning people that you already know or have connected with in the past, I'd say, well, what's one of the last ways that you connected with him, right? If it was text message, yeah, and it's a GC you used to text all the time, text him and be like, oh my God, thought about you the other day. This made me think about you. Just wanted to say hi. Hope everything's going well, right? Something like that. Hope that answers your question. It's a bit nuanced about all the leads, and this is kind of what we talk about too. It's not, when I work with clients, it's not just this hypothetical like I've kind of taught you today. It's like, okay, great, you got that response from Johnny the architect. Okay, give me the backstory. Where are you at? Let's talk about how we can respond, right? And that way you get the juices flowing to really understand. My job is to make myself obsolete, but you do need a couple of scenarios of real things, real situations to help you with that, Jenna. But hopefully that helped you answer that question. Diane, great information.
Christine, yeah. I'm also going to just get you to stop your screen share because of how it's set up. We'll be able to, you might be double on some people's screens right now. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Now let me find the chat again because there's so many windows. Hold on, everybody. Let me get to that.
All good. Sorry, messing with your flow here.
Yeah, no, that's all right. We were at Diane. I'm looking forward to watching the recording again and sharing with the principals. Oh, thanks, Diane. I appreciate that. Rhonda, this was amazing and so inspiring. Thank you. I have placed the new BD time on the calendar. Good. Thank you. Nice job. And I know we'll all do it as I have been actively working on my business, updating referring systems, etc. Thank you for this. Good, Rhonda. And I want to remind you guys, setting up a new CRM and those sorts of things and filling out the list of people you could reach out to till you get to 100. That's not what I'm looking for. I want you to just fill in 5 people and start the clock on reaching out to people. That's what I want you to do, right? That's proactive. Andrea, thank you so much. I can't wait for the replay. I couldn't take as many notes as wanted. Oh, that's great to hear. I know I speak quickly. Esther, I have found that builders and realtors appreciate phone calls because their emails get full quickly. Esther, really good point. It does depend generationally where they're at as well. But Esther, it's a really good point you make. They're not sitting in front of their computer. They're not at all. I like that a lot. It's a good one, Esther. And I think it's worth a shot. Kind of shoot the shot. Oh, who said that one? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name on that one. Do you think that email newsletters are still beneficial? Stay top of mind, sure, but don't forget it's passive efforts. So I'll give you a quickie thought on my school of thought on marketing in general. Marketing is the parent umbrella. Under it has 2 buckets. One that has a little label maker label on it that says credibility building. In that is SEO, website, social media, PR, newsletters, speaking engagements. This is passive for me, right? But it's credibility building. So I don't deny it, but it by no means is the lead generation like what we're looking for to smooth out pipeline. Over here in the other bucket, little label maker says proactive, and it's relationship building. That is what we just talked about too today, right? It's intentional relationship building. It's getting in front of people. So it's nuanced. So to answer your question, sure, do a newsletter. Don't spend tons of hours on it. Put those hours in intentional relationship building. If it's already up and running, keep it going. Sure, great. But don't lie to yourself that that's business development, because it's not. Hold on. Next. Oh, yep, I do that all the time, Esther. Mary, thank you. This was great information. You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that. Caroline, I thought you mentioned that you have portfolio tips for new solo designers that only have bedroom or bathrooms and a few rooms from friends. Yeah, real quick on that. I would do like Ryan Sahagian. He has a great, and he's a designer and a famous designer. I've got to hear him. Hold on. He just, as soon as you hit interiors, it just out like a Pinterest board. Masonry, large imagery. Look him up. He's out of LA. Ryan Sahagian, beautiful design. Has a very unique design aesthetic, which I love that he has such a unique voice. And it just blasts into his portfolio. It doesn't say which project is which. It just merges all the projects. There's no rhyme or reason. That's what you can do. Is Ryan Sahagian. Yeah, I know you're probably going to ask me how to spell that. Excellent question. Hold on. Saghian. He is Armenian. That helps. Who was that? Caroline. That helps to just kind of not point out, so you don't go to a portfolio page and it's like 2 projects or 1. When you just kind of have lots of pictures just flowing, then the person just forgets to even be aware of like how many projects do they have. It becomes superfluous information. They don't care that necessarily. They just want to see that the aesthetic jives with them, right? So that's one way to hide it. If you don't have a ton of those pictures, it's also good to throw in some coming soon imagery, right? Or just a block that says like the location and coming soon. Renderings. So people, if you're not using AI, I don't care what you have to say about it, you're selling yourself short. You need to be putting your sketches, your ideas into it, and it is not unethical. It's like going and hiring a renderer like we've always done. And I guarantee in that generation, people thought that was maybe unethical because it should have been a hand drawing, right? We're just in a new generation. Yeah, thank you. You need to be using that. So for those new designers that don't have a big portfolio, put some sketches in, or even just say, I want it to look like this bathroom with this flooring, and put some concept images and make a rendering for me. Rendering up and say coming soon. That is just like going to a renderer, which we all think is fine and not unethical, and putting on your website. So these are ways that you can be building out your portfolio while you really don't have one. Hopefully that helped, Caroline. I know we're coming up at time, and I want to save time for Helena to. You're welcome. God, that helped. You guys, thank you. Appreciate all the questions and making this interactive. No fun talking to myself. So really appreciate that. And I like making connections. In fact, I like doing breakout rooms. We're going to look at maybe doing that too. That was a great idea. I think, oh, you're welcome, Andrea. You're welcome, Cecilia.
Great. Well, thank you, Christine. I honestly am also going to add like, be ruthless. Are you aligned on my wall? Because I love it. Yeah, it's so true, because and I find if we like, we're going to get off topic completely, but like even as women, being ruthless is like not necessarily our default mode. And so I think that it's just, it's a great tagline to like motivate you. So
thank you for calling that out. And here's what I'll say. You have to step back and ask yourself, is it by default? Is it by design what you're doing? And then the tool of ruthlessness, or the lens of ruthlessness, is how you get there, how you shift from default to design in whatever you're doing, right? We're talking business development right now. When is the right time to hire an employee? Oh, Stephanie, I know you have that question. Sorry. We do have 2 minutes. I can try to dive into that. Are we good with that?
If you want to dive into 2 minutes.
Okay, no,
go for it. Yeah.
So there is, well, first of all, I'd love to try to answer that. It's a really nuanced question, Stephanie, as you can imagine, especially when I don't know the makeup of your business. And so I don't want to kind of misguide you. Here's what I'll say. I'll say, if you're completely busy and you have no time for business development, it's time to hire someone. Better make sure that everything, I want you to ruthlessly delegate to them billable work only in order to make time for business development. That's one situation of hundreds that I've heard, but hopefully that resonates with you, Stephanie, where you might be, and especially since the topic we're talking about right now. You're welcome. All right, you guys, thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you, Christine. So again, on behalf of the entire studio designer and my Doma team, thank you, Christine, for spending some of your expertise here with our wonderful followers at your studio. And thank everybody here who joined us today. We're super excited to keep hosting these Work of Design live webinars, and so we'll hope to see you at the next one. And just a quick plug, if you're heading to Vegas Market, we will be there also next week, so you can check out the events we're hosting live, and they're also great education as well. So thank you again, everybody, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.